All right, welcome. Today we're day 26. The one lesson we're looking at today is lesson 73. You're going to flip over there, and we're looking at multiplying and dividing positive and negative numbers. So again, we worked with adding and subtracting. We've worked with negative numbers and positive numbers in the past, but with multiplication and division, there's some rules that we need to pay attention to based on the number of negative signs that we have. So again, knowing the positive outcomes of some of these can help us calculate, if we know 2 times 3 is 6, well then 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. Okay, so there's one negative sign, so our solution is going to be negative. If there's two negative signs, it's going to be a positive solution, whether we're multiplying or dividing. So when we say a negative times a negative is a positive, well, it's the same for division. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. So how I always remember it is if it's an even number of negative signs, then it's a positive answer. Like 2 times 5. Well, there's 0 negative signs. 0 is an even number. 2 times 5 is 10. It's pretty simple, and they're all positive numbers that we've been doing since kindergarten. But if there's, like this example, 2 times negative 3 is negative 6 because 1 is odd. There's one negative sign. And if we went negative 2 times negative 2 would be positive 4. If we did negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, that would be negative 8 because negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. Positive 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. There was 3 negative signs. 3 is an odd number. So our answer is negative. So that's how I always remember. The book will introduce you won't see any more than problems with 2 negative signs, but down the road you will see some with like 5 negative signs or 7 or 6 or whatever. And remembering the rule for positive and negative numbers, multiplying or dividing, can really help you out. So the ones you see today will probably have 1 or 2 negative signs at most when we're multiplying or dividing. So again, you can read through all these. There's this rules description. If the two numbers in the multiplication division problem have the same sign, the answer is a positive number. Again, that works for when there's 2 numbers, but if we have more than that, then obviously we're going to need to account for all the signs. If the 2 numbers in the multiplication or division problem have different signs, the answer is a negative number. So again, if this kind of terminology is easier for you to remember, then that's great. I just remember positive times a negative, or positive divided by a negative, or negative divided by a positive. It doesn't matter if we're doing division, if the negative sign is in the numerator or denominator. There's one negative sign, our answer is going to be negative. If there's 2 negative signs, our solution is going to be positive. So again, looking at some of these fact families, positive times positive is positive. Negative times negative is positive. Negative times positive or positive times negative are both negative. And then the same works out when it's division. So if we have negative 12 divided by 4, well, there's 2 signs, 2 negative signs, so our answer is going to be positive. So it's going to be positive 3. Negative 2.4 divided by 4 is going to give us negative 0.6 because we have one negative sign. Again, it doesn't matter if it's in the numerator or denominator. Okay, so 2.4 divided by negative 4 would have given us the same solution. See, 6 times negative 3 is negative 18. And then negative 1/2 times negative 1/2 gives us a positive 1/4. It doesn't matter if it's fractions, doesn't matter if it's decimal numbers. The rules for multiplication and division of negative numbers is the same. We have to pay attention to the number of signs. There was 2, that's why we were positive. There was 1, that's why we were negative. There was 1, negative. 2, we were positive. Then we'll go over these, and again, you can do these in your calculator. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Hopefully we know how to do it by hand if we had to. When you're putting it into your calculator, be careful. I know I've talked about this a lot, but use the one down by your decimal number to indicate a negative number. Okay, don't use the subtraction sign. I know when we write it on paper, it's all the same thing, but in your calculator, it has a difference in computing negative numbers and subtraction. So make sure you use the negative symbol down at the bottom by your decimal. Don't put in, so if you put in this problem and you had 8 times plus 5, you're going to get an error message because it's trying to do multiplication and addition right here, where you can't multiply and add this number all at once. So just do 8 times 5. That's why I don't like, in the textbook, a lot of times they put the plus by a positive number. If there is no sign, we know it's positive, but sometimes they add that in just to get you thinking, okay, this is a positive number, which again, I think is just more confusion, but pay attention to that. We'll do this practice set together and go from there. Thanks.